10 insanely underrated Shudder original horror movies that no one is talking about. English playwright and novelist Clive Barker once said, "Horror fiction shows us that the control we believe we have is purely illusory." Ironically, this is why most fans of horror love the genre so much. The idea of being terrified is something not many have come to appreciate, but for those who have, streaming service Shudder seems to be the place to go. Founded in 2015 by AMC Networks, this streaming service is almost entirely dedicated to one genre, and with some of its recent addition of films, including many great originals, it is becoming increasingly popular among fans. With streaming giants like Netflix, Disney Plus, and Prime Video, many gems like Shudder go unnoticed and are often underrated. But when in search for indie, classic, or any other subgenre of horror, this streaming service is just what you need. Shudder features a very friendly user interface and is available as a premium service on Android and Apple devices, Amazon Fire Stick devices, Roku, Chromecast, Xbox One, and subscription via Prime Video. It offers both monthly and annual subscriptions in the US, UK, Canada, and Ireland. Although the platform is most famous for its original series titled Creepshow, today we will be counting down our top picks of original films it has to offer, which many fans are missing out on. Before we get into the explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click from you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Let's begin. Number 1. Monstrum, 2018. Directed by Hyo Jong-ho, this South Korean film is a period action piece that is set during King Jeongjong's reign in 1527. It is a creature horror and stars actors like Kim Young-min, Kim In-kwon, Lee Hae-ri, and Choi Woo-shik. The king has no choice but to summon his retired general, Yong-gyom, as a deadly plague devastates cities. During this plague, many report having seen a ghastly monster that has been devouring men on the mountains of Joseon. General Yoon, along with his daughter and trusted right-hand men, sets out to hunt down this supposed beast in order to save the people. Surprisingly, this film is inspired by real events that took place in the year the film was set. The king was forced to move out of his palace, which was haunted by a mysterious creature. Monstrum received the Panorama Fantastic Audience Award at the Sitges International Fantastic Film Festival in October of 2018 and smashed the box office on its opening day. However, the critics gave the film mixed reviews, claiming that despite the director's ability to build curiosity and suspense, the picture had quite a predictable plot. Number 2. Impetigore, 2019. This Shudder original was directed by Indonesian filmmaker Joko Anwar and stars Tara Basro, Faradina Mufti, Agnini Haq, and Asmara Abigail. The mystery horror revolves around a woman, Maya, who unknowingly comes into possession of an ancestral home in her village. However, on visiting the house with her friend Dini, Maya learns dark secrets about the villagers who have been searching for her for many years. They wish to kill Maya in the hope that this might put an end to the 20-long-year curse. The film's rural setting provides a refreshing change of pace from most modern-day horror films. Impetigore won the Mellies Award for Best Asian Film at the Bucheon International Fantastic Film Festival in 2020 and sits at a solid 95% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. For those who are fans of suspenseful films, which feature a tiny bit of gore of course, this would make a perfect Sunday watch. Number 3. Anything for Jackson, 2020. Directed by Justin G. Dyke, this film explores the lengths people will go for someone they love. After losing their grandson in a tragic accident, Dr. Henry Walsh and his wife Audrey kidnap a pregnant woman named Shannon. They are driven to do this after they join a satanic cult, having felt helpless and desperate enough to do so. It is here that they come across the Necronomicon. Anyone who is familiar with the film Evil Dead would know better than to mess with this book, because more often than not, you get far more than what you bargain for. Henry and Audrey's main aim was to put the spirit of their lost grandson into Shannon's unborn baby, but things go sideways faster than they can handle, and they must find a way to escape the grotesque thing they have accidentally summoned. The film has a classical biblical horror vibe to it, with the influence of the occult, the inclusion of spells, and the involvement of spirits. But what makes Anything for Jackson especially amusing and terrifying to sit through is that most of its jump scares are so much more than just that. Often when horror films have to resort to jump scares, we can tell that the fright will be momentary. The film will not get under our skin, giving us chills for days to come. But in Anything for Jackson, that is not the case. Dyke has paced out the scares, giving us little to no foreshadowing of the things to come. The film stars Sheila McCarthy, Julian Richings, as well as Konstantina Mantalos, and sits at an affirmative 98% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 4. Dogs Don't Wear Pants, 2019. Directed by J.P. Valkeapää, this Finnish erotic dark romance film stars Pekka Strang, Krista Kosonen, and Iona Huta. Widower and single father Juha struggles to raise his daughter Ellie all alone. Although it has been 7 years since the passing of his wife in a tragic accident, Juha still finds himself to be emotionally detached. That is until he meets Mona, a dominatrix by profession to whom he takes a liking. After years of barely feeling anything, he feels drawn towards the sensation of pain, taking pleasure in it. But what starts out as his exploration of the world of BDSM soon turns into something dark and sinister, as Juha finds his entire life disrupted by the blooming romance with Mona. What stands out most about Dogs Don't Wear Pants is the stellar acting by both Pekka Strang and Krista Kosonen, who play Juha and Mona respectively. The two bring their respective characters to life with ease, making it easy for the audience to suspend their disbelief as they sit through this grim movie. Although Rotten Tomatoes rates the film 89% on its website, many critics admit that it has potential to be too much for some viewers. That being said, if you can stomach an intense blend of pain and pleasure, this is just the film for you.
Joshua, I am speaking to you.
Do you like it?
Number 5. Z, 2019. Brandon Christensen's Z is a classic horror thriller made with all the elements that genre fans love to feast on. The film is relatively short with a runtime of just an hour and a half and tells the story of a family of 3. When Kevin and Beth first notice that most of their 8-year-old son's time is devoted to his imaginary friend, they dismiss his behavior as harmless fun, and something he will soon grow out of, as most children do. Much to their horror, the couple realizes that this friend is far from just a figment of the son's imagination, and is in fact something that threatens their very existence. The two must then find a way to escape the clutches of Z and save their son in the process. Z stars Keegan-Connor Tracy, Sean Rogerson, and Jet Klein, and is rated 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. The film was made on a tight budget, but that doesn't prevent it from giving you the chills. Much like the famous horror film The Babadook, Z is divided up into 3 acts. The first of these sees the spirits driving the mother insane, almost as if she is being gaslighted and ganged up on by the ghost, her son, and her husband. Klein, who plays the role of the son, undoubtedly outshines the rest of the cast with his performance. He has starred in other horror films as well, such as Devil in the Dark, Puppet Killer, and A Stranger with My Kids. Number 6. Random Acts of Violence, 2019. In any list of horror films, it's always important to include at least one slasher film. After all, the subgenre has made a name for itself with the likes of Friday the 13th and Halloween. Random Acts of Violence was produced and directed by Jay Baruchel and revolves around Todd Walkley, a comic book writer who has recently published a book titled Slasher Man. He visits a town where this slasher man allegedly caused a rampage more than 20 years ago, accompanied by his publisher Ezra. They believe the town to be the perfect place to announce their book launch. But on reaching their destination, something dark unfolds, as it seems that a series of murders are taking place once again. This time, however, they bear an uncanny resemblance to the gruesome depictions in Todd's new comic. Although the premise of this story is overdone and something even children are familiar with, Goosebumps, remember? The brilliance of this film lies in the fact that even with the cliché storyline, the makers have managed to create something that will keep the audience at the edge of their seats. Random Acts of Violence stars Jesse Williams, Jordana Brewster, and Neam Wilson, and sports a 56% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics have had polarizing views on the film, with some loving it and others claiming it to feature too much bloodshed. Number 7. Spiral, 2019. Before the release of the 9th installment of the Saw franchise, there was another horror thriller named Spiral. Directed by Curtis David Harder, this film revolves around same-sex couple Malik and Aaron, who move to a small town with their 16-year-old daughter Kayla, to find a home in a more accepting social environment. Initially, the couple and their daughter are welcomed by warm neighbors, and they feel like they might have found just the right home for their family. But they soon realize something more sinister may be at play, as neighbors Marshall and Tiffany's behavior becomes increasingly suspicious. Spiral sports a 77% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and stars Jeffrey Boyer Chapman, Ari Cohen, and Jennifer Laporte. Besides being a gripping watch, this film also spreads awareness of the struggles faced by people from the LGBTQ+ community, and how those struggles inadvertently affect their children as well. Using horror to identify and shed light on these issues has been greatly appreciated by the critics. Number 8. Blood Quantum, 2019. Directed by Jeff Barnaby, this Canadian film is packed with zombie action for the entirety of its runtime. The film revolves around Indigenous tribes of Canada who remain strangely immune to a new zombie virus outbreak. As the dead continue to come back to life and attack the living, the people of the First Nation Reserve must help white refugees that seek shelter and protection. The world around them continues to be destroyed and devoured by the flesh-eating walking dead, and it is then up to those that are immune to restore order.
James and Moon are just killing him.
Blood Quantum is a refreshing take on regular zombie films, with an important message to send out about colonialism. In the real world, it is not a secret how white European settlers have continued to make their homes wherever they liked, with the indigenous people having to pay a heavy price, facing new and fatal diseases and being removed from their own land, shoved out of their homes. But here, the tables seem to have turned, as the white settlers must beg the indigenous people to take them in and protect them. The film stars Michael Greyeyes, Elle Maya Tailfeathers, and Forrest Goodluck, and sports an affirmative 90% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Even critics have mostly had positive things to say about this film, and about the message it aims to send out.
Are you gonna kneel down before the resurrected Christ?
Number 9. Beelzebub, 2017. Another biblical horror on our list, the Mexican film is directed by Emilio Portes and stars Joaquin Cosio and Tobin Bell. The film revolves around Detective Emmanuel Ritter, who is trying to cope with the gruesome murder of his newborn. Almost immediately after his wife gave birth, the hospital took the child into a nursery where she stabbed the baby as well as all the other infants present before slitting her own throat. With the case being open and shut, there is nothing the police can do, leaving Emmanuel to grieve. Years later, a strange mass shooting in his town sends him on an investigative mission, and he finds himself needing the help of a priest rather than the police to solve the mystery of the massacre. Beelzebub has a runtime of almost 2 hours and sports a 79% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. In our experience, it is often the filmmakers that grow up around heavy religious influences that seem to make the most interesting biblical horrors. Critics have also given the film positive reviews, and it is no surprise that a film starring Tobin Bell will go down well with fans of horror, as the star is famous for playing the role of Jigsaw in the Saw franchise. Number 10. The Mortuary Collection, 2019. Directed by Ryan Spindell, this is an anthology film that stars Jacob Elordi, Emma Horvath, Clancy Brown, and Caitlin Custer. The first part of the anthology sees Sam, a job-seeking young woman, arrive at Raven's End Mortuary, an establishment managed by Montgomery Dark. Dark tells Sam horrific and bizarre stories about the town of Raven's End, with stories he shared divided up into 3 segments. In the second part, Sam tells Montgomery her own story. The third and final part is set in the present and captures the final exchange between Sam and the mortician, revealing twist after twist. If you are a fan of supernatural horror riddled with magic spells and dark imagery, this movie will make for the perfect watch. It is rated 67% on Rotten Tomatoes, but critics seem to love the depiction of the characters in the Mortuary Collection. The different parts of the anthology all tie up in a well-mannered way towards the end, but you can never guess when the next plot twist is lurking around the corner.
And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.